Hello everyone, Sableye here and welcome back to the channel. Today we are here with a post-match analysis of my World Cup set versus Mattie Morgan. And of course, if you guys are unfamiliar with the World Cup of VGC or Mattie, everything you need to know about both can be found down below in the description, so feel free to check that out. Now of course, without further ado, I say we start analyzing what's going on. So, of course, Mattie, one of Ireland's top players, going up against Canada here in the first week of the group stages. Team Canada did have a bye for the first 3 weeks of the World Cup this season, so we didn't actually have to play, which is why we're picking things up in week 4. However, we're going to jump into this match right here. So, first things first, we're going to go initial thoughts because there's a Dozo. And anytime I see Don Dozo, my initial thought process is immediately to see what's going on with that Don Dozo. What potentially is going to be their game plan. And my first initial thought was they're probably going to go with Grass Spam because Grass Spam is keeping my Urshifu off the field, right? They can easily go something along the lines of Gothitelle and maybe like the Ogerpon and then switch the Gothitelle out into Rillaboom and just Grassy Glide, maybe knock out my Urshifu. Stuff like that, and those are things that I really don't want to see, right? They also have the Yawn and the Yawn on the Dondozo, so I really have to kind of force my hand to not really be playing too passive. So I opt to go with the Goldango Arcanine lead. It felt like it covered the Grass Spam mode pretty well. Goldango would give me an ability to switch out if they did lead Gothitelle, and I need to have Ogerpon because I need to force the Terra Dragon. And the problem with forcing the Terra Dragon on the Dondozo is, generally speaking, with other teams, you force the Terra Dragon, you hit them with like the Ice type or the Flutter Mane. This team that I'm using here is actually James Bake's Peoria Regionals team, and it didn't have that way to hit that. My best Fairy move was actually Terra Fairy Arcanine, so maneuvering to that scenario is actually difficult. Either way, I still figured maybe I can get them to Terra something else, and then my Ogerpon actually can beat the Dozo, or at the very least, I have to somehow force my Terra Fairy Arcanine to actually do damage. So we're going to lead this. We actually do get the Grass Spam lead, which is incredibly strong for us. And immediately, my thought process here is there Swords Dance? I didn't actually check in Team Preview because, I'm not that smart. So my immediate thought process was, go check that team sheet. Is there a Swords Dance? Is there a way to capitalize? Is there a reason for me to be Terra Dragoning here, Terra Fairying on the Arcanine? After all that, I did decide to say, you know what? Hold up, let's go back. Because I was just going to double attack. And I figured, okay, you know what? If I was my opponent, Goldango is not immediately threatening Ogerpon. They can simply fake out my Arcanine and try to set up with the Swords Dance that they do indeed have. And I said, hey, why not? Let's just expect that to be the case. Click Nasty Plot myself. That way I'm a threat for them the next turn. And just let my Arcanine get faked out. If they don't fake out my Arcanine, I take my Rock Slide damage. Big damage onto both. It's Banded Arcanine. It's going to hurt. And of course, fake out. And Swords Dance follows suit from the Ogerpon as I follow up with a Nasty Plot of my own. Now, not a bad turn. However, a very scary turn. Because the big concern now is that if the moment I Terra Goldango, it is no longer a answer to Dondozo. Not that it was necessarily an answer to Dondozo before, but it technically is an answer to Dondozo, right? So I think here what I wanted to do is my thought process was to just kind of scout out where they were going. There was no real ground move. If they wanted to double into Arcanine, it had to be Grassy Glide, and I didn't think that was really going to necessarily be able to pick up the knockout. So I basically say, hey, this Rillaboom's probably going to maybe try to get some chip damage. Maybe this Rillaboom's going to try and U-turn out. And I think the Ogerpon does protect. It's going to protect, I believe. I don't remember what I did with Goldie. I think I just Rock Slide Shadow Ball. I don't think I bothered protecting. Yeah, okay, I didn't bother protecting. And like I said here, this is one of those ones where I can't really afford a Terra Dragon. But they're going to try and scout out to see if I want the Terra Dragon. Right? Thankfully, we're going to get a nice little flinch under Rillaboom. So that definitely keeps us in position to do some things on the next turn. Because I do feel like that was some sort of U-turn to position off the field. Maybe a Wood Hammer to get some big damage. Definitely going to take that flinch. Not going to complain about it. That's for certain. And here is the first mistake of the game, is I think now that they're going to go after Goldango. And this is the call that I should be getting right. This is the call I need to make in order to win this game, that they're going to go after Arcanine. Because I already identified that in Team Preview, Terra Fairy Arcanine is my answer to the Terra Dragon Dondozo in the back, right? Without that, I've basically accepted the fact that Dondozo is going to roll me over. So here I make the questionable play of going Terra Dragon, but it was more so to get through what was on the field in front of me. And yes, it's going to work this turn. I mean, it doesn't really because they did double the Arcanine, as you'll see in a minute, but the concept was that it was going to get me through this turn, and that is a very, I don't want to say poor way to play because generally speaking, sometimes you do need to play like that, but in this scenario here, you're going to see the double Grassy Glide go into Arcanine, and Arcanine's going to survive on 2. Now, maybe I die there, maybe that is a damage roll, maybe not, maybe that's a mistake, but we do get the Rock Slide off successfully, do take that down, and we are going to actually double up and take care of the Rillaboom. Now, you guys are going to see why right now that as the Dondozo comes in, that, hey, all of a sudden, I'm in danger. I've lost my only Enter 2 Dondozo. It's now on 2 HP. Something that can theoretically at least tank a hit from Dondozo can now no longer tank a hit from Dondozo because I have Terra Dragon. And just like that, the end game is slipping away from me. And this is why you need to think 2-3 turns ahead, especially when you're playing something like the Dondozo. Because it's such a, I don't want to say oppressive strategy, but for lack of a better term, I will. But like the moment you burnt your resources, Dondozo can 100% sweep through team, right? So right here, I need to make some calls. I need to start making some sort of adjustment to get back into this game. So I'm going to try my best to do that. But unfortunately, at this point, I do believe we're just so far down. You can see me hovering over, like, what am I even supposed to do in this scenario, right? It does end up, I believe, being Protect and try to get Ogerpon on the field. Or maybe it was a Shadow Ball and get Ogerpon on the field, thinking that they were going to ignore my Goldengo. I don't remember exactly too much about these turns. I do remember just being like, okay, I am in an absolutely terrible spot. Don't have much that I can really do to help beat this Dondozo right now. So I kind of just need to try and maybe pry for a crit, maybe pry for some big calls that can pull me back into this game. And this is what I'm trying with the Goldengo right now. You know they're going to Terra Dragon. And like I said before, I've already lost my Terra. I can no longer Terra my Arcanine. Order Up is about to go crazy versus my entire team, and there's not much I can do about it. Here comes the Order Up into my Ogerpon. Way too much damage, by the way. Absolute insane amount of damage. We do get a nice little Shadow Ball off here with the Goldengo. Of course, the +2 not going to matter since that Dondozo is unaware. And I think I actually... in fact, because of the grassy terrain, I almost effectively did 0 damage, which is incredibly, incredibly sad. So the end game here is going to be to crit them. And it's just not going to happen, right? Like, I can protect Goldengo here hoping they go after me, but it's not like I can actually effectively hit the Ogerpon. I do protect saying, hey, they're going to try and get after me. I haven't protected the Goldengo yet. Maybe I'm playing too aggressively with it. So we're just going to protect, stall it out, cover that up a little bit. But there's not a whole lot. Like, I'm debating switching, maybe getting an Arcanine back in. But the problem is, Intimidate Cycle isn't going to win me this because Order Up is just going to immediately counter that. Arcanine is way too low to bring in safely. I can't actually hit this Dondozo. Once it went Terra Dragon, I could not touch it because I didn't have my Arcanine. And that was a huge problem for me, and you know, you're just going to see them. We do get the call right with the Protect. Ivy Cudgel is going to thankfully come out, but once again, I'm practically healing this Dondozo at the end of the turn with the grass and the leftovers recovery. It's just not worth it. And guys, this is basically an end game where I tried to cycle around. I am going to skip ahead here because it's over at this point, right? You guys don't need to see this Dondozo absolutely slaughtering me, right? At some point I try to bring in Fake Out, I try to get Shadow Ball damage. I do crit a Drain Punch at some point, I believe. But like, it's just not enough. I need numerous crits to actually somehow win this game. It's not going to happen at this point. I believe I went Follow Me here and just let my Ogerpon go down. But at this point, I need to start thinking about game 2. So at this point, I've already considered thinking about game 2. Need to somehow make an adjustment. I'm not too comfortable going up against Dondozo where it has that Perish Song mode, not the Perish, but the Trap mode with the Gothitelle, and along the lines of, I normally like bringing Urshifu to Surging Strikes and crit it. But that that double grass with the Grassy Glides, really, really annoying for that Urshifu to deal with, and I don't want to get trapped in with Urshifu in a scenario where they can go for that. As you see there, once again, Make It Rain doing nothing, and I think that's a good enough time to start moving over to Game 2 preview. Okay, so we are now in preview of Game 2. Like I said before, it was just a little bit longer, drawn-out match until that Dondozo could actually take out my pieces. They, of course, were able to do that successfully. Nothing I could really do, as I mentioned before. Once I tear that Dragon, that Goldengo, it was really, really, really poor endgame for me right there. Just got scared of the moment. It didn't happen. So now I need to adjust. right? So I need to come up with something that can deal with grass spam and deal with Dondozo. My adjustment to that was going to be Torn plus whatever. I wasn't sure how I wanted to approach this. I was going to go Torn Goldie, and I changed my mind to Torn Arc because I was like, they're probably not going to bring Gothitelle. They don't really have much of a reason to change it up. I do think they're going to expect the Tornadus bring on adjustment here. So maybe they don't bring the grass, or maybe they bring half of the grass and a Dozo lead to try and force some pressure. But along the lines, this is what I ended up going with the Torn Arcanine, because it put more pressure onto the grass spam, put a little bit of pressure onto like the half Dozo, half grass spam lead, and I still wasn't expecting Gothitelle to be under radar, so I didn't think I needed to switch anymore. Since I had that Goldango lead in the first game, I didn't think they were really going to lead Gothitelle, so this felt right. I still wasn't comfortable bringing Urshifu, figured maybe hitting some Bleak Winds, maybe hitting some Tailwinds, allowing me to be faster than the Dondozo with an Arcanine would feel incredible. But here we go, we're going to see the Gothitelle, which I just spent a minute explaining that I didn't think Gothitelle was going to show up. So I think it's a really decent adjustment from Mattie, because they're basically looking at it going, I'm going to make an adjustment. They know I'm making an adjustment, right? So they say, hey, let's just trap that adjustment on the field and go from there. So here I'm going to Terra Fairy because I can very easily see Fake Out plus Wave Crash taking out my Arcanine. I cannot switch. I cannot protect that slot. This is a must Terra. It's a little shaky because I could make a hard read and say, hey, they're not going to target it. Don't have to burn my Terra right now. But it's by far my safest play, and I was on the back foot already on the lead. Felt like needing to make a safe play. I didn't want to lose the game turn 1. Like, if they would have Wave Crashed and just taken out my Arcanine, it was over. So I do go for the Terra into the unfortunate Fake Out, but we are going to get the Bleak Wind. We are going to miss the Dondozo, which, of course, anytime you miss a Dondozo, all that chip damage is going to potentially come back and haunt me, right? Arcanine, of course, is going to flinch, and Dondozo is now going to yawn. Should have seen this mode coming. I really didn't see this mode coming. Like, that trap me in and yawn stuff. This was really, really annoying. Really, really difficult to get through. And, of course, we're going to Bleak Wind. And we're going to Bleak Wind and pray. Because at this point, there's not a whole lot I can really go for here, right? I kind of have to let Arcanine take a nap. I kind of have to try and get some damage onto the board. They have the free switch if they want it. They can... In my mind, they're protecting the Dondozo, right? They'll protect the Dondozo, bring the Tatsu in, let my Arcanine go to bed, and move on from there. That's what the play in my mind is. So that's what I'm playing against. Obviously, there's not much I can really do here. But my brain said they were protecting Dondozo, and unfortunately, I did target the Gothitelle with this Terra Blast just because I was expecting the Dondozo to not play super risky and just protect here. They have no reason not to protect here, in my opinion. Obviously, they make the call and they just advance their board state a little bit better here. But had I just like launched some damage off into the Dondozo, this could have gotten a whole lot better for me anyways. However, they do just launch the order up after the Tatsugiri switch, and Bleak Wind Storm is going to miss the Tatsu. And guess what, guys? It's going to miss that Dondozo again, because why not? Arcanine is going to Terra Blast, and once again, like I said, I did target that wrong slot, but I was hard reading the Dondozo Protect. I didn't really think they were going to risk the damage, or risk taking banded Choice Band damage, but, I mean, hey, you know what? It worked out for them, and I mean, maybe, in theory, they don't take that much, right? So probably perfectly fine on their end to make that play, but did get that call wrong. And now I need to do something. Now I need to somehow maneuver back into this. I do know, however, Goldango is incredible. If it's something like that Glamora as their last one and they drop Grass Spam entirely, Goldango just beats the Gothitelle, beats the Glamora in the back. If they did bring one, if they brought the Rillaboom, Goldango beats that as well. The only one that it doesn't necessarily beat is the Ogerpon, so I definitely want to preserve the Goldango for the endgame. And here is, I am basically just burning my turn of sleep, right? I wanted my turn of sleep to get off the field so I could potentially wake up later. Now it's one of those, I think it's a spiky shield, and I want to get off the field. I was going to just launch the attack, but I want off the field because the moment I get off the field, it does bait that Terra Dragon from their Dondozo. We did see, however, that Order Up is not actually capable of taking out my Ogerpon just yet. So I say, you know what, let's launch some damage. Let's get off the field. Let's reset this Arcanine for later. Because right now they might not want to Terra, assuming because I still have this Arcanine on the field, I could still wake up at any moment's notice. So, get the Torn on the field, try to go fast, and try to put a little bit more pressure on in this scenario. There's an Order Up, like I said before, based on the damage it did earlier. I didn't think it was going to get there on that knockout. Thankfully it did not, and my math was correct. And we are going to connect a little Power Whip, and I was actually surprised that Power Whip did 50% to a Dozo. I was like, wow, that actually is a good chunk of damage. I didn't think I was going to get that much damage, right? And here's where I make another mistake. I should be going Cudgel here because, like I said, I just need a little bit of damage to finish off this dozo, to put this dozo in range of something. I was kind of banking on them maybe not wanting to Terra, realizing that I had already Terra'd my Arcanine and that was going to be my win con sort of thing. But they do correctly Terra Dragon the Dondozo here. They are definitely, in my head, they are definitely winning these matches here, or winning these turns. Tailwind does go up, looking to set up an endgame here, where I can actually, like, 1v1 this endgame. Power Whip, unfortunately, is going to miss. Once again, Cudgel versus Power Whip there. Technically, Power Whip does do a little bit more, but Cudgel has the chance of critting, which is technically a little bit better. But it is what it is. We're going to go down there with our Ogerpon thanks to that order up. And now, once again, this is like a +4 Dondozo, +5 at this point. I wasn't really paying too much attention. I did get the initial Intimidate from the Arcanine on turn 1. And now it's Arcanine come back in, and now I got to wake up. I do debate Goldengo, but the whole point and the whole concept of swapping Arcanine out was to swap it back in and to blow up this Dondozo. There wasn't really any other game plan here. This is the game plan that I had coming into the turn. This is the way I was going to play this out. Now, I just launched the Bleak Wind and the Terra Blast and pray that I wake up. There isn't much of another play. It's Bleak Wind, Terra Blast. I just got to out-damage the Dozo, and we see what happens. And that's what I find to be a little bit nice when you play Dondozo. You don't have to worry about what the other slot's going to be. You don't have to worry about to switch out. So if you can get to a position where you can just fire off attacks into that slot without really having any negative repercussions, it feels really, really strong. So we're going to get the Bleak Wind off here. We're going to get the Terra Blast. Thankfully, because Arcanine is going to wake up after that first turn wake, or after that one turn of sleep, I should say, and we're going to get the Terra Blast. And big damage into Dondozo because we are Choice Banded, but unfortunately, that missed Power Whip coming back to haunt us here. Here comes the Wave Crash. It is going to clear the Arcanine. However, this is not the end of the world because they are going to lose their Dondozo to the recoil, and down goes Dondozo. So, raid boss gone, I guess you could call it that, but down goes the Dondozo. But now it's one of those questions of what is their last mon? Is it that Ogerpon? Is it that Rillaboom? I did save Goldengo for this exact scenario, right? This is what I wanted here. And they're actually going to bring on Gothitelle. And the moment I saw Gothitelle hit the field, it's one of those things in the back of my mind where I go, okay. Seeing Gothitelle pretty much confirms they didn't bring something that would beat Goldengo. Generally speaking, they don't know I had Goldengo yet. But realistically, based on the rest of my team, Goldengo is technically the better option there for what I would have brought. So under that assumption, they probably don't have the Ogerpon, and it's probably going to be either the Glamora or the Rillaboom in the back. So I just decided to launch a Bleak Wind. I am no longer threatened by Gothitelle in the slightest. I have to double the Tatsugiri because they do actually have access to Substitute, and I don't want them getting any sort of Substitute shenanigans off right now. Definitely got to get this Tatsugiri off the field. So here's a nice little Shadow Ball. And of course, this Tatsugiri is actually nice and bulky, is actually going to be able to take that very, very well. Here comes a Psychic from the Gothitelle, and thankfully Torn is going to be able to survive. They are going to go for the Muddy Water, and, you know, just living things. And that's actually kind of funny. I didn't realize that their Gothitelle was actually faster than their Tatsugiri, which is kind of insane. Like, I just realized that now watching this game back. Obviously, I don't think it's too relevant for, like, the end game here, but it does imply that they're a little bit of a faster Gothitelle and maybe a bulkier Tatsugiri as well. But I knew it was bulky Tatsugiri just off the fact that it was Ability Shield, no Focus Sash, no Choice Scarf. Figured it would have to have some sort of bulk to try and live something once your Ability Shield, because you do lose your beneficial item just because you need to get the Dozo boost in versus the Weezing, right? So figured they had a little bit of bulk. Here comes the Bleak Wind, gonna drop the Tatsu. Here comes the Shadow Ball, gonna drop the Gothitelle thanks to the last turn of Tailwind. I am a little shocked that they didn't just protect the Tatsu. They did have access to it. I feel like maybe protecting Tatsu and getting like whatever their last piece on would at least force my spot to deal with 2 Mons still as opposed to 1. But, you know, I do respect the play, just letting both go down, and you are going to see the reveal of Rillaboom come out as one of their last Mons here. And it's just a a clean endgame here, right? Like, they can't really kill the Torn, but they have to kill the Torn because Bleakwind is doing too much. And they can't really pressure down Goldengo with anything because they're Woodhammer, Glide, and U-turn. So they don't have a lot to really deal with Goldengo. So I basically say I click Tailwind just to get my Goldengo, making sure I'm faster than its Rillaboom in the endgame. And I Nasty Plot. If they go Fake Out and kill my Torn, that's fine. I still get a Nasty Plot. If they go Grassy Glide to kill my Torn, then I get my Tailwind up and a Nasty Plot. Both of which positions feel perfectly fine for me. There's the Glide, take down the Torn. Perfectly respectable. I respect the play. And now it just comes basically down to how good is Goldengo. Can Goldengo live a Woodhammer plus a Grassy Glide? I am very comfortable with this Kel. I don't think there's ever a world that I'm dying to this. They're giving me too much health. I can always just protect again next turn. If I so choose, if I feel like the Woodhammer has done too much to me, I can always protect for a turn. They're AV, so I always still have 3 turns of Tailwind. As you see right there, Make It Rain does way more than enough. And the Woodhammer is going to just, you know, do less than half, which is super, super critical to see for moving forward. The recoil from them is not going to take it out. We're going to get a little bit of health back. And at this point, it's just launch an attack. I could protect for health back, but we already saw that a Woodhammer, even a crit Woodhammer at this point, isn't going to kill me. And I'm the faster Pokemon, thanks to the fact that they let me get a Tailwind up. So this is going to be a Make It Rain, and you're going to see them forfeit, which is completely fair. And time for Game 3. And we are here. We're jumping into Game 3 now. And of course, my entire game plan going into Game 2 is, hey, they're not going to bring Gothitelle. So now they've brought Gothitelle, so what if I just led Goldengo? I think I am now bringing arguably the correct 4. You could still make a case for Urshifu, because I'm still not certain that they're going to go back to the grass spam mode. But and the crits versus the Dundozo are very nice. But I do lock in the Torn Goldengo lead. I'm trying to find a lead that's kind of neutral into like everything. Like if they go the grass spam mode and I have Goldie Torn, I'm still getting Bleakwinds off. I'm still putting on immense amounts of pressure. Right? If they go back to the Gothitelle stuff, this actually puts me in an optimal position where I can capitalize on the fact that they can't really do much in that position, right? The Gothitelle obviously can't really touch Goldengo. I'm free to switch it out whenever I so choose. And things like that just feel pretty strong. So I feel confident going into this Game 3 now that I've lost after the adjustment I made in Game 2. But I'm a little still worried because like I think they're going to play Game 2 back. And I'm expecting an Ogerpon now. I think dropping Ogerpon was dropping one of their only Goldengo, like their true Goldengo answer. So I think they're definitely going back to Ogerpon here. So I should have like considered bringing Urshifu here. But anyways, we're going to run it back here. We're going to go immediate lead with our Torn and our Goldengo. Try to capitalize on the fact that Gothitelle is on the field. And this turn 1 is very, very questionable. I think on my end, personally, because it's one of those ones there's a lot of implications that could happen either way. Because I could very easily click Taunt, stop a Yawn, not let that happen. In my mind, I was under the impression that Mattie was going to expect me to adjust. Because Game 2, I think they were expecting me to Taunt turn 1, and that's why they just kind of stayed on the field and attacked. Whereas here I'm feeling I don't really want to get caught up into potential's immediate switch, them expecting me to adjust with a taunt, right? So I do just drop a Bleakwind, and I do just drop, I believe, a Shadow Ball and just double the Dondozo for incredible damage. You see a Psychic come out into my Torn. Torn's going to be able to tank it, and Shadow Ball is going to come out. But unfortunately, Mattie does make the correct call and gets the Yawn off. And, oh, they don't Yawn, they Wave Crash it. Huh. I don't know, for whatever reason I thought they Yawned, but I guess I'm behind a turn now. Because I know they Yawn at some point. This is where I should have taunted. I definitely should have taunted after that turn 1. But once again, I'm still under the impression that they are just going to switch in Tatsugiri and get an attack off. Right? I don't want them to walk in with Tatsugiri and Wave Crash my Goldengo to death. Right? The swap into Ogerpon here, I do think is incorrect. I think just getting damage off is incredible, especially if I'm Tailwinding. Right? Because Tailwind Shadow Ball saves my Ogerpon for late game. Gives me a little bit more. I'm trying to preserve Goldengo here. And I think this is where I actually end up losing the game. I'm trying to preserve a Goldengo that I have no business preserving if I can just do enough damage to Dondozo before I lose half my team to the Dondozo. Right? If I can kill off the Dondozo, like if I trade Goldengo for Dondozo, my Ogerpon is still actually in a very strong position to win this endgame. However, I don't make that play. Had I just gone for Shadow Ball here, I'd be in an incredible position. Gothitelle is going to taunt my Torn, so now I can no longer set myself up for anything in the future. And there is the yawn, and that yawn right there is detrimental, because now my Torn is going to go to sleep, and my Torn is my enabler on this team. My Torn is the enabler to beat the grass spam that's in the back. My Torn is the enabler to get my Tailwind up, maybe get a Rain Dance off my Ogerpon if I wanted to boost my damage. Not very likely that I'm going to do that, but it's my enabler. And Torn is about to go to sleep. There's not much I can do. Once again, still expecting Dondozo to protect, but knowing what Mattie did in game 1, I'm taking the advantage and saying, hey, I'm going to double the Dozo here because they may not protect. If they don't protect their Dondozo, we once again get some decent damage with a punish, and I do go for the IV Cudgel this time because I figured, hey, I get the chance to crit. There's a very good chance they're actually going to go for their Terra on their Dondozo here, just to make sure they keep it alive. They have to make sure of that because I am Tailwinded up here, so my Ogerpon actually is faster. So easy call on the Terra Dragon here. There was no real surprise when it does pop in a minute after all these stat boosts. But yeah, there's the Terra, like I was saying, and now it's a question of, can I preserve my endgame to actually win this game? Had I just gone Shadow Ball last turn, this game was over. I've played this early game, I don't want to say poorly, but I've definitely gotten some turns wrong in this early game. I've let my Torn go to bed. Not a great spot. Ivy Cudgel, as you can see right there, doing negative damage. They no longer have to worry about my Torn either because, hey, I'm going to sleep at the end of this turn. There's not much I can really do about that, right? So they're going to order up, as we saw in game 1, just absolutely massive damage coming on out into Ogerpon right now, and just not strong. Just not good in the slightest. And there's not much I can really go for here that's really going to pull me back into this game. Because they can easily protect another turn if they wanted to stall out a turn of Tailwind and maybe get some health back. That's very valid on their end. But they don't really need to, because even if I crit a Cudgel, I don't know if a crit Ivy Cudgel gets there. It'll be very close, but I don't know if it does. I think I decided to go for it anyways. Or no, you know what I did? I protected and burnt a turn of sleep, is I believe what I did, which I stand by as being the correct play. Or did I not do that? Like, I'm trying to figure out what I did, and I'm just watching this go back. I think I did switch into Arcanine and try to attack with Ogerpon, because I figured I would be able to get Arcanine in on a decent position. But this actually backfires on me. I do believe, looking back, that just protecting Ogerpon and trying to burn a turn of sleep with Torn makes a little bit more sense to me. Of course, that's unfortunately not what I did. So Torn is going to switch off the field. Arcanine's going to come on in here, get the Intimidate down. I don't think I'm living the order up here. And that, in my opinion, is very obvious especially after you see the initial damage, right? There's a Dondozo, not much it can really go for there. And the order up is going to come on out, and it's just going to blow me back, right? At least we saw how much the order up did the first time. They're now back to that exact same attack stat because they got the attack boost. Down goes the Ogerpon. So now, this is one of those end games where I haven't taken a turn of sleep yet. And Arcanine's on the field. This Dondozo is still technically, I believe, if my math is correct, it's at +3. It's incredibly scary, but I still can't bring Goldengo in because they could just Wave Crash whenever they want and blow me up. Of course, I could still Terra Dragon, but I don't want to go Terra Dragon just yet because the Tatsugiri does have Draco Meteor. So I definitely don't want a scenario like that to be the case, right? I have one more turn of Tailwind, which is nice, and that's what I was looking for, because now they're going to stall out that turn of Tailwind. Right, so they're going to protect, and that's going to give my Tornadus a chance to wake up here. And that's exactly what I was looking for in a scenario like this. Right, obviously haven't played this early game optimally. Letting Torn go to sleep was never in my favor, never a good idea. Should have taunted sooner, didn't taunt sooner. Dondozo, of course, is going to protect here, like I said, to stall out his last turn of Tailwind. And Rock Slide, of course, isn't going to matter, and there's my first turn of sleep on Torn. So now I have a decision to make. Based on earlier turns, and in game 2, seeing the Terra Fairy Terra Blast Choice Band not kill Dondozo from just under half, I was not comfortable in Tailwind Rock Slide killing the Dondozo here. Because the other option is I also can't wake up, and that doesn't feel good. So I decided to say, hey, you know what? If they target my Torn, Arcanine gets some damage. If they target my Arcanine, because it should be a Wave Crash now, because they're never going to order up the Arcanine slot, knowing that I can Terra Fairy. They're never going to let that happen, and they have to Wave Crash. So I decided to say, hey, what if I just waited instead of trying to set up a Tailwind again, and I just click Bleak Wind. Because if they do take themselves out to the Wave Crash recoil, and I can get the turn 1 Wake Up, the chip damage into Tatsugiri is instrumental into my endgame. Right? And we do see the Dondozo go down, and this is one of those moments where you pray that you need that turn 1 Wake Up. Once again, let myself go to sleep a little too early in this game. Could not let that happen. I needed to preserve that a little bit better early game. Did not do that, but thankfully, gonna get a little bit bailed there by the Bleak Wind Storm. Gonna get some really, really good damage for about 35-40% onto that Tatsugiri. Maybe closer to 40. Definitely closer to 40, actually. But that's the damage I was looking for on Nagiri. And now becomes the question, did they actually adapt with Ogerpon, or did they have Rillaboom? They did indeed adapt with the Ogerpon, which as was to be expected. This needed, I think, in my opinion, to happen in Game 2. But hey, you know what? They made the right adjustment in Game 3. And I respect that. So now it's one of those ones where is the Ogerpon going with this Ivy Cudgel? Because I need to Terra Dragon something to survive it. This is a very dicey turn. I don't necessarily want to touch with Terra my Goldengo, because right now Goldengo does beat that Gothitelle and the Tatsugiri endgame. So what I end up deciding to do is go Shadow Ball Bleak Wind, because I know they're not protecting Ogerpon, because that's their piece that's putting on pressure. It's not the correct scenario for them to protect, I don't believe. They might debate it. There's a debate to be had about maybe protecting a piece here, but I don't think it's ever their play. I decided to click Bleak Wind. I figured there's a chance they go after Torn, so I can't get set up. Figured there's a chance they try to drop a Draco, and they do actually go after Torn with the Ivy Cudgel. Torn, of course, surviving on 3 HP, going for that Bleak Wind, and it misses the Ogerpon. And that is truly, truly tragic, as the Muddy Water now comes out, cleans up the Torn, and Goldengo goes down to 78. Now, had I hit this Bleak Wind on the Ogerpon, we would have probably done about 70, and probably 70, maybe slightly more. I'm not too familiar with those Torn calcs. But that was more than enough. Hitting a Bleak Wind would have been more than enough to kill off that Ogerpon. And that would have won me the game right there, because Gothitelle comes in. What I would have simply done would be to protect Goldengo. I would have protected Goldengo. They would have gone for a Muddy Water with their Tatsu. Actually, do I protect? That really just comes down to if I think they're going to single target Muddy Water at that point, or if I think they're going to substitute, because they still have the sub. I don't know if they're in range of being able to click substitute. So I would have had to make that call. I didn't have to make this call, because at this point this game was over. This is now I have to Terra Dragon and dodge and double dodge. I have to Terra Dragon and dodge Draco Meteors. There is no other line here. That is the line. Right, now that I've missed. That's not in range of substitute, I don't believe. So I would have been able to protect, get a little bit of health back, and win the game. But now I have to Terra Dragon, dodge Draco, kill the Tatsugiri in order to pull this one back. That is the line. That is the only line I have now. Of course, I can't get too mad about Bleak Wind misses. You know, it's like the Precipice Blade. You know, you click it, you live by it, you die by it. It is what it is. I got lucky. I got bailed by a couple good first turn wakes anyways. So missing that Bleak Wind is basically neutral, right? Like, I should have played this early game better. They do successfully connect the Draco. I wasn't winning that endgame. Ever. Shadow Ball was never doing enough to the Ogerpon there at that point. And once the Gothitelle comes back in, obviously I protect, stall out a turn. But they know I can protect, because they just go fake out Swords Dance, and then it's game over. Once I missed the Bleak Wind, the game was effectively over. So unfortunately, we do take the L to Mattie. Thankfully, the rest of the team did cover for me. We did manage to thankfully win the week 6-2 versus Ireland. So on to next week versus Team UK. But with that, guys, that's kind of my post-game analysis. If you guys do enjoy these types of videos, my brain is done, guys. If you guys do enjoy these types of videos, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But with that, I am going to get on out of here, and I will catch you guys in a future video.